to a all right, welcome everybody to a an interesting session I think we're going to have today. The session is called the Vet Practice Selling Journey, and it's really a play-by-play, a blow-by-blow of three incredible sales that went down fairly recently. And myself and Tom Civitano are going to kind of talk through the ins and outs, the good, the bad, the ugly of these deals to help you guys as practice owners really understand kind of the emotional side of what it's like to make a decision like this. It's potentially going to be one of the biggest decisions of your life. It is scary. And so we want to give you kind of an insight into how other practice owners navigated their journey and how they came out on the other side. And I think it's a really, the goal here is to help people feel comfortable about making a decision that could truly not just change their lives, but the lives of their team, their family, and in some cases, their community. It really is a very profound decision that is before many owners. So I'm going to do a little bit of a slideshow to begin with, but like I said, I'm going to introduce myself. While I'm doing this, I'd love people to just type in yes or why if you can hear me. I'd also love to know what part of the U.S. or Canada that you're coming to us from. You could just type in your state or your town if you want, and also how many DVMs you have. And throughout, any questions that you might have, please type them into the chat and we'll be ready to answer them. So myself, my name is Melanie Seymour. I am the co-founder of Transitions Elite and also DVM Elite. We've been working with veterinary practice owners for over 15 years. And the goal is, of course, we want practice owners to be super successful. We want all of the financial side to be fantastic. But the whole goal, the whole reason we exist is we want to make happy veterinarians, happy practice owners. And on the DVM Elite side, we grow practices and we take these burdens off the shoulders of the owners so they can have a more complete quality of life. And then on the Transitions Elite side, we find the buyers, we engineer the entire sale, and then we execute a very high level, high price transition and sale for the practice owner. So yeah, so and then we also have Tom Civitano, who is the head of Transitions Elite, our lead kind of deal negotiator, and he's going to bring his sort of share the stories of a number of owners who again recently sold with us. Before we jump into the stories, though, I'm going to go give you kind of an overview of why we're even here. So we're going to break down the narrative of three owners who sold. Just so you know, these are relatively younger owners. These are not owners who had any plans to sell. They age and range from 40 to 58 years old. They're all still full-time veterinarians. They're all still the boss. They're the medical director of their practice, and they all still own the real estate. And Tom will talk a little bit about how that's kind of a key piece. The other thing is, a lot of owners have a question. Why would I, or why would any veterinary practice owner who's comfortable, who's successful, who's maybe younger, maybe in their 30s, 40s, 50s, why would they ever knock themselves out of their comfort zone and even consider selling? Well, it's an incredibly unique moment in time, and it's a moment in time that will not be here forever. And we're seeing signs that this window is closing. And you've heard this a million times before, but it really, I mean, it is happening. So it's important for people to understand if you're a 2 or more doctor practice, if you're grossing, around 1.5 million or above, this is a conversation you've got to be having now if you don't want to lose an opportunity. And why? Because selling in today's market and with the right selling partner, so to the right buyer, but with the right person guiding you through the process, some amazing things can happen, and things that veterinarians never would have thought would be applicable to them in their lifetime. So selling can keep you in control. A lot of owners think, selling my baby, this thing that I've built over the last, 2 decades, 3 decades, this is the ultimate loss of control if I sell. And it is actually the complete opposite. It is your chance to be able to kind of engineer the perfect, the perfect practice in some ways. The other thing is people, sell because it protects you and your team. So all the things that you might be afraid of, your team losing their jobs or getting swallowed up by the corporate machine or whatever it might be, this is an opportunity to protect yourself from all of those things. And then the other thing is, and this is a big one, people worry, you know what, if I sell, I am losing my legacy. And that is actually so, it's really and truly the opposite, because if you sell now, you are securing your legacy in a way that you just wouldn't be able to do. If you sold to corporate, for example, they will rebrand, change absolutely everything. There won't be a single whiff of what you built over over the previous decades left. So you don't necessarily want to go down that road. If you sell it to another individual, another DVM, they're going to apply all of their personality, their name, all of those things to your practice. So again, with those two options, your legacy pretty much disappears. In this model, with a financial buyer, they change nothing, and so your legacy is kind of frozen in time to a certain degree, which is really exciting for a lot of owners. And it also means that selling right now will open up your dream job. I mean, Tom will talk to you about the fact that more and more and more owners are coming to us, and they are not motivated by the dollars and cents, by the numbers. Although it's an unprecedented moment in time in terms of the price you'll get right now, that's not the motivation. People are tired of the grind. They can't face another 10, 20, 30 years of sacrificing so much. They want a better quality of life, and they want to move away from the management, the admin, etc. And they just want to focus on being amazing veterinarians. And so that's what selling does. It will allow you to kind of, again, engineer your ideal job. If you enjoy doing surgeries or whatever it might be, then that's something that you can maybe negotiate. But it allows you to be a vet and not a manager, a scheduler, an HR specialist, all of those things. The other thing is, selling right now, again, with the multiples that are being paid, it is again a moment in time that we've never seen before, and we probably in our lifetimes will not see again. And it gives people a level of financial freedom that you just couldn't imagine otherwise. I mean, this is not a lot of money. This is true generational wealth that you'll be able to pass down through your family, potentially forever. I mean, it's setting your family up in a way that is, everyone's financial worries, would really disappear. And the other thing is, a lot of owners do have that fear. I'm afraid of losing my identity as the boss, as a veterinarian, etc. Your identity is very tied up in that. But the absolute opposite happens. Your identity stays being a veterinarian, stays being the boss, but it also opens up, it's expanded to now be, you're a more involved parent. You are traveling. You're doing the sports that you used to do, or you're a hobby farmer, or whatever it might be. It expands your identity in a really significant way. So with all of that, with so many things that are positive, again, your dream job, incredible wealth, and a quality of life that you just wouldn't be able to achieve otherwise, why are so many owners fearful? And that's really what this session is about. It's talking through the emotional journey of these owners who came in, feeling like, I know this is the right time to sell. I can't get past the barrier of being scared about it. And so we're going to kind of help with those thought processes. But why are owners so fearful? And it's pretty simple. Number one, people think, will I upset my spouse, my clients? Are they going to leave? Are they going to be upset with me? They're my family. Am I going to, rock the boat there? Is my community going to feel that I'm sort of a bit of a sellout? Will I lose control? Will I lose the status of as a boss? Absolutely not. So for the first one, when people tell their team, as long as they're part of the conversation, the teams are very, what you're going to be able to give to your team if you sell is something that you would never be able to do as an independent practice owner. So the fear of telling your team is usually a very unfounded one. Clients would never even know there was a change of hands because nothing changes in your practice other than things are enhanced. Your community is going to benefit, and we can talk a little bit about why that would be in a moment. And your spouse, as long as they're part of the conversation, they're going to be so excited. And again, they're going to get more of you, more time, a more relaxed you. It is just a net positive for everyone. So again, if that's a fear, those really don't play out in real life. Also, people wonder, am I going to lose control? This is a business I've built, again, over 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it is. Will I still have my status as a boss? Will I still have my power as a boss? And absolutely, in fact, you are now you are fully in control of the medicine of the practice. Again, someone has to worry about the liability and the responsibilities and the ordering and the scheduling. That's someone else's burden now. But you're very much you're the medical director. You're very much in control, and your identity as such will stay the same. So again, in terms of worrying about losing your identity, that's even more solidified because you are now there's not that murkiness about are you answering the phones, are you doing this and doing that. You are purely the medical director, the lead veterinarian, and you're again, your identity becomes even more robust. And then a lot of owners, I think, really do feel that they're going to be perceived, or they will judge themselves as a sellout. You've worked your entire life to avoid selling to corporate, etc. And that's not what this is. We do not sell to corporate. This is a financial buyer. This is this is working with a team like Transitions Elite who will find the best fit buyer who really fits with your ethics, with your medical model, and doesn't change anything. And so you're not a sellout. You are doing something. Again, the net impact on yourself, your family, your team, your clients is so positive. So the absolute opposite is actually the case. You're helping everyone. You're not selling out in any way. Because again, if you sold to corporate, that would be a little bit different. This is not that. And then I think a lot of people do worry that, again, everything they've built is just going to be swallowed up by the corporate machine. It's going to all get rebranded, and everything that was true to you is going to disappear, which is, again, the case if you sell to corporate. But this is getting ahead of it. We all know there's a corporatization of the veterinary industry that's happening. But this is your chance, again, to secure your legacy, to secure your medical model, to look after your team, to have what you've built be out of the hands of corporate, and to make sure that you are not swallowed up by them. They never have that opportunity. So it's really all the fears that people come to us with. Usually, we've never heard them actually play out in real life. So what can you do now? And we'll go over this in a minute, but you can be informed, you can know your options, and you can create a game plan. And that's effectively what we're going to talk about right now. And we're going to go over to Tom. We're going to talk about 3 scenarios, 3 practice owners who came to us, and what their what was their head trash? What were their concerns, their reservations, their barriers, etc. So Tom, first of all, welcome, Tom. Tom is our superstar at Transitions Elite. And I think we're going to break down one by one the kind of the narratives around each of these former owners. And I think we're just going to refer to them by their first name. Is that right?
Sure.
Okay, excellent. So welcome, Tom. So
Thanks.
if we jump right into, well, actually, do you have kind of opening statement that you'd like to share before we jump in and actually sort of dissect these selling scenarios?
Yeah. I think that every owner that I speak to, and it's quite a few of them, they all have reservations and concerns and nerves about even having a preliminary conversation, right? Let alone going through the entire sale process of potentially selling your business, right? So they're nervous just for an initial consultation. That's normal. A lot of people, I'll always ask the question, well, what brought us together? Were you on a webinar? Did you see our website? And they'll say, well, I've been dabbling around. I've been thinking about it. I've been kind of getting my feet wet a little bit, and I thought maybe I should learn more. And that's kind of, I think, the first step for most people is, like you said, Melanie, inform yourself, right? And that's the best thing that you can do. Because I could tell you that, looking on the opposite side, everything that we used to do is retirement planning, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of times, in those conversations, those folks waited a little too long, right? They waited to the point of they couldn't do it anymore, right? Physically, or they couldn't do it mentally, or there was an issue or health scare, something like that with them or their spouse, right? So there was a reason why they were coming, right? Now it's kind of changed to, maybe there's a better option out there. Maybe there's something that could offer me a better lifestyle and a whole bunch of money in the middle, right? But again, we're seeing that the money is not the driver of most folks that I'm speaking to recently. It's more of, Trisha, who we'll talk about in a second, I want to spend time with my son. He's 2, and I feel like I'm going to miss out on it. And I built this great business. It's a machine. We're making a lot of money here. It's very well done, but it's also all I think about, right? And it's I can't go to Disney World for a week because I can't leave the practice for more than 36 hours in case something happens, right? I have a manager and my associates are very well, trained and whatnot, but there's still something inside of my head that says, well, I can't go there. I can't be away. I can't, you know, uh-oh, my son's sick. What do I do? I can't practice today. And that's kind of, I think, the driving factor these days as to more and more, especially younger doctors, more and more folks are saying to me, well, what options might I have? Right. And what's out there for me and how would that affect my life? And sure, how does that affect my finances too? But again, not necessarily the driving force. I think everybody is knowledgeable of this is a really good market for veterinarian practice sales, right? And it has been now, we're entering into our 5th year of a really good time to be a seller in the marketplace. Sure, there's been some ups and downs, but today is as good as ever, right? So that part speaks for itself. And most folks are doing really well and have done well for a while. So they're not starving for cash. They have a good foundation. Yes, would it be great to sell my practice for $8 million? Sure, and that's a reality of the situation. But again, it's everything else is really the driving factor, and that's when I think there's a sense sometimes of guilt, a sense of fear of, should I do this? Can I do this? Will people look at me differently? How does this all work, Tom? How does this, what really happens post sale? So those are a lot of the questions I get up front.
You know what? I feel like you've just put this webinar in a nutshell. That's all. That's exactly the narratives that we want to pull out, and that's exactly right. And I just have a kind of a funny story to add to that. I did a kind of an interview with a practice owner who you sold her practice not that long ago, and I just spoke to her a few days ago, and I asked her when did she know she was ready to sell, got her into the conversation about selling. And she said, well, I've been thinking about it for about 3 years. I hired one. I spoke very, very closely for about a year with one company, a broker firm, and they're just like right at the last minute, something they said just kind of freaked me out. Then I moved to another. Then I went to a bunch of conferences. She was a real life learner. She said, I listened to everything out there, went to all the talks, etc., really got informed. And then at a conference, I met another firm and I hired them and we were ready to go. And then right at the end, I realized, you know what? I just don't totally trust that they have my best interests at heart. I don't, I, there's a bit of a mismatch here. And if I feel like they're not fully invested in me, it just doesn't feel right. I need to know that the person that is selling my practice and guiding me through all this, really understands me, what I want, etc. And she said, so at the last minute, she kind of stopped that relationship. So she had two really, I mean, and then she found, she actually opened up an email. It was from us, and she had a conversation with you. And then, the rest is history. She sold her practice. She was thrilled. But I guess my point is, through all of that, she was so tentative. In the back of her mind, she had all of these reservations. She had the fears, will I feel like I'm a sellout? Will I lose control? All these different things. And my point is, if you're with someone like you, Tom, who's guiding you through it in a way that's open and honest and really genuine, those fears dissipate because they again are not really, they're not well founded. They're not fears and reality. So anyway, on that note, I'm going to jump into this. If we break down, so shall we start? What is the name of the first owner that we're going to talk about?
Trish.
Trish. Okay. So I'm going to just ask you some questions, and if you could kind of, fill in the gaps. So can
Sure.
you just tell us what their location was of their practice and how many DVMs they had?
They had 4 DVMs, and they were in a small, pretty rural town in Ohio.
Okay, great. And we're not going to talk about the revenue and the profitability and the EBITDA because it's a little bit irrelevant in some ways. That really is more a conversation, kind of one on one. But so, how did they learn? How did they come to us? How did they learn about Transitions Elite? And I
Trish
asked.
is, like you said, a true life learner. She did her research and found every single option that was out there, and stumbled across our website. And I think she would tell you she put me through the ringer for about 3 weeks, in terms of questioning me and every little skeleton I might have, or any deal that we've done, etc. So she did her homework, I could tell you that. And she's a brilliant, brilliant person.
Excellent, excellent. So, just kind of in general, people are often referred to us by other clients. Sometimes people will say I have an owner I spoke to the other day, and they said they opened a random email from us, and it was like they said in hindsight, it was like getting the lifestyle lottery. Like they just or winning the lifestyle lottery. They were very tempted to not open it, but when they did, it started this amazing chain of events. So so how did Trish actually hear about us? Did you say that
She
she?
was just Googling
Oh my,
veterinarian practice sale advisors, or some combination of words like that, and just stumbled across our website.
wow, amazing, excellent. Okay, so then when you started the conversation with Trish, um, what initially for her sparked the idea of selling? Like, was it a
Complete,
conversation that
complete
someone?
family, complete her complete desire to spend more time with her husband and her son. She had a Her son was just turning 2 at the time, and she felt as though there was just too much stress, too much going on at the practice. Um, Honestly, in her case, too much success. Right, the success was taking her time, and the practice just continued and continued and continued to grow, and they were just doing so well. It was so hard for her to step away for really any amount of time. And she was sitting there, and she, like any mother at age, high 30s, low 40s, that little guy was her gift from above, and she wanted to spend every second with him, and she couldn't, and that really affected her day to day, and that was her driving force. She was in absolutely no need to sell that practice whatsoever.
Yeah.
um, a prominent figure in that community, started the practice at a very young age and had a tremendous amount of success.
It reminds me of Dr. Aaron, who's one of our kind of star Transitions
Very
Elite.
similar.
Yeah, multiple locations, a young owner, very, very successful, a family of 4 children under 5 at the time of selling. And he says, he just asked himself one day, what is my why? Why am I doing this? How much more do I need to grow this practice? I've got a ton of money already. I don't need to do it financially. And look at the sacrifice. I haven't, spent the time with my kids, and he was a very active, sportsman, etc. He hasn't done any of that for the last 15 years. And so, yeah, again, they sound like they were both very motivated by a change in lifestyle. So,
100%. This
so
was not a financial decision, I can tell you that.
yeah, because she already was doing well, and she didn't
Exactly. And
much
and
of.
and obviously she could have continued to do well for the next 20 to 25 years without a doubt, right? So there was no financial need whatsoever. She was a smart cookie and did her homework on the financial side, knew her numbers inside and out, and we worked together on what the market value of this practice is. What do we think we can do? How do we get the best price, the best terms, etc.? That was very much part of the conversations, but why we were having those conversations was not financially driven.
No, and you do bring up a good point, and I don't say this in an insulting way at all, but it really is those smart, um, business savvy owners who say to themselves, I not only have an opportunity to take advantage of this incredible moment of time a moment in time, again, to get real generational wealth, not just a lot of money, but I mean, more money than I could ever spend. But at the same time, I get to open up this quality of life that I just wouldn't be able to do. And yeah, no, absolutely. So then,
One of the core conversations that we had in the beginning was one about what is your real risk, right? And her real risk was she does not move on this opportunity now, and then in a year or two comes back and says, I need to sell the practice. I just can't do this anymore. And I have to then inform her of, hey, remember that valuation that we talked about 2 years? Well,
yeah,
you guys still kicked butt and did really well. However, the market went from here to down here. And
yeah.
the risk for her was just that, right? It was market risk and timing risk. And she wasn't willing to take that risk in the end.
Well, it's a real thing. People don't know what's around the corner. Again, one of our clients, young in his 40s, sold, and then within 6 months had a very serious medical issue. He had a back issue, and he was incapacitated just for a couple of weeks. But it meant that he had his production slowed down, going forward. And so he says to us all the time, had he not sold exactly then, he would maybe have not, well, he would definitely wouldn't have gotten anywhere close to the huge amount of money that he got for his practice. No one's going to buy a practice where the owner is kind of underproducing and or could be incapacitated at any time. But he said he might have been in a position where he just could not, never mind selling, a fire sale, he just might not have been able to sell at all. So this
Yeah.
is someone in their 30s. You just do not know. People say, oh, well, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to have a life event. I'm not going to have a health scare. It happens.
And
It's a
then you don't get stuck owning the practice and doing all the day to day for another 12 or 18 months. You get stuck doing that for another 5 to 7 to 10 years until
exactly.
there's an entire another cycle like the one that we're in today, right? So um, timing is a very important piece.
Absolutely. And that's why, again, I say it's the smart people who have that keen, insight into, okay, this is an opportunity that I really cannot, for myself, my family, my team, I cannot miss. So, okay. So just a couple of things about Dr. Trish. What would you say, if any, were her real, you talked about her risk, but did she have fears? Did she have reservations? Was she worried about losing control, about being judged by her family, about her team leaving? What were her fears?
I think her fears were in how her associates would take the news, how to tell them, how to deal with them. Are they going to be on board, etc. She had excellent relationships with all of them. However, this is a common concern. It happens almost every time. When I get nervous in my seat is when the seller has no concerns about telling their team, because then
Right.
it's kind of odd, right? Like, why
Yeah.
you have no reservations at all?
Yeah.
So, to everybody, it is totally normal to be concerned about telling your team, especially your doctors, right? They're your biggest asset. There's this huge fear that you're going to take them out to dinner, tell them about this, and they're going to say, I quit, throw the
Yeah.
napkin on the
Yeah.
table, and storm out of the restaurant, right?
Finish.
It,
Yeah.
let me tell you, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay, it just doesn't. I think we recently looked at this. We're well over 100 straight full time veterinarians that have signed their new employment agreements. Do they put up a fight sometimes? Absolutely. Do they get attorneys and representation? Yes. Is it a walk in the park every time? No. Do they eventually see the light and be excited not only for you but for themselves and what the future holds? They do. Every single time they do. This is not a coincidence. It's strategic. The process in telling them, how you tell them, when you tell them, it has been tried and tested and will help you. And the entity that you select to move forward will help you. And between those two, we've done this a lot. And we know what works and what doesn't work and when to involve them and when not to involve them. So, I think that was a common concern, but it was definitely one that Trish had.
Well, I tell people all the time that, again, like you say, it's very deliberate how and when you tell your team. But when I interview our clients after their sale, they'll say Tom held my hand through all of this. Like all those fears and reservations, it was all carefully crafted so that it didn't play out. But people often say to me, I was so petrified to tell my team. I thought they were
Oh yeah.
either going to again have a mass exodus, or they were going to be so angry or disappointed in me, etc. And in reality, everyone said, like, they laugh. Everyone laughs when they say that. They say like the opposite has happened. Like, now I'm in a position where I can give to my team something I would never be able to do as an independent owner. They have better pay, like retention bonuses, etc. They have better benefits by far. I think you said one client has like a 17-page document of benefits,
35.
35-page document
I've
of
never even heard of some of the programs that these folks offer now.
wow. Wow.
They are so, and remember, they're so competitive because they're recruiting so strongly, right? But they can't just offer it to the new people that they're recruiting. Everybody gets it, right? So
Right.
every, a couple months a new program rolls out, and now everybody's entitled to that, right? And it could be, CE driven, and the CE programs that we're seeing are so innovative and they're so cool. And now they're in-house. So you're not going, not to knock on
Yeah.
VMX, but you're not going to VMX with 30,000 people. You're
Yeah.
going to an in-house cadaver lab to practice a new technique, right? So totally different kind of lifestyle that these private equity groups bring. So it's pretty darn cool. Again, the associate kickback. Is it normal to have a little bit of kickback? Yes. Are you going to hand your associate their new agreement and they're going to sign it 10 minutes later? No, they're not. But we'll get through it. We'll walk through it strategically, and I guarantee you, at the end of the day, you're gonna text me at 11 o'clock at night and say, "Okay, that wasn't too bad."
Yeah.
I don't know why I was so nervous about that. Went
Well,
great. Those are the texts I get.
but it really, I can't underscore this enough. And it sounds self-serving, but it's just so true. If you work with just a regular traditional broker, they will do their job, they'll find you a buyer, they'll orchestrate the deal, and then that's it. Your relationship is just so different. In order to get the prices, the terms, etc. You need a very, very, very strong relationship with both the buyers and the sellers, and they need to know they can text you at 10 o'clock at night saying, I'm nervous, or they can text you at like 1 a.m. saying, I finally signed it, or whatever it is, and that you're going to care, and that you're really and truly part of, a partner in this, which is, again, it's a huge, huge decision for them. So that's great. So then moving on with Dr. Nikki, she had these reservations, not huge ones, but she was making a lifestyle decision. She'd done lots of her research, etc. She did the sale. I think she did extremely well. Is that right? She did.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Multiple offers, wide range of offers, for those that are interested in hearing that.
Yeah.
Um, that happens. That is a very real item in today's marketplace, is the range of offers. And I think Trish would absolutely stand by that, because that was true in her scenario, as it is in most scenarios, is that the range of both the numbers and the terms very dramatically different in these offers. So yes, she was very happy with the offer, and it closed in, I want to say, uh 10 weeks from the time she signed her offer to financial closing. Um, Went extremely smoothly. And that, obviously, some issues come up with the lease, or some issues come up with an employment agreement, but we get through them one by one, and we put a bow on it. And it was about a year ago now, and last I heard from her, she couldn't have been happier about it.
Well, so that's kind of the last question with Trish. So post sale, did her role change a lot? Do you
Nope.
feel that she's happy with her decision? Any regrets? Anything like that?
No, her medical role didn't change one bit. She's the medical director. The doctors report to her. She is the boss of all things medical. I always tell people, if something happens in the exam room or the surgery suite, you better believe you're still responsible for it. There is no medical protocol. There is no outside, general counsel, medical director. You are the boss of the clinic, medically. Now, what changed for her? She doesn't do payroll anymore. She doesn't do accounting anymore. She doesn't keep her books. She doesn't handle the taxes. She doesn't do the insurances. She has all this help on the HR and recruiting side. It allowed her manager to take a big step up in responsibility because, the call spade a spade, it's not her money anymore, right? So it's a little bit more hands off now. So, hey, why doesn't the manager take a step up, and take on some of that responsibility? It's fun for them, great for me, for my lifestyle. So, they take on more responsibility. So, a win-win, in every regard.
Well, I think it's a really important point. It's something that I do tell people a lot, that when you sell, you are enhancing your team's quality of life so much, not just financially, etc., but you become easier to work with because you're relaxed. All the spouses always say that. I can see the team find you more relaxed, more
Oh,
agreeable.
yeah.
But another big thing is your team now can work to the top of their skills. So in the past, where maybe the techs were answering the phones and doing this and doing taking the dogs out for walks, etc., the techs now have the resources and the freedom to actually be techs and to really work at the top of their skills. The manager now has the freedom, to really manage, because everyone has these kind of defined roles, and you have the meet. And I just think it's really important, because I think one of the issues with teams is that they do feel disempowered and they do feel a bit micromanaged, etc. And this, I think, really does go a long way in solving that. So I'm just very conscious of time. I want to make sure that we get through to two others. But just as a closing thought with Dr. Trish, and this is, you are not her, but what do you think if I said to her, do you have advice for your colleagues, other practice owners thinking or in a position to sell? What do you think she might say?
I think she'd say inform yourself and educate yourself on what options are out there for your particular situation.
Yeah. Simple as that. No, absolutely. And on that note, I just want to say, Jessica, could you throw the URL? We have a booking link where you can book right in to have a conversation with Tom. Like we said before, and Tom really did state this. A lot of people are very nervous about having even that first kind of chemistry call to, where he can understand a few things like, are you and your practice even ready to sell? What kind of value do you think your practice might have right now? What are some things that you can go away and do that might enhance the saleability or the value of your practice, etc. But people are nervous about even going there. But I would say you can never be too well informed, and you just need to know your options. So Jessica has just popped the link. If you just either copy that down or follow that link, you can book right into Tom's calendar. It can be a short chat just to kind of a meet and greet. It can be a longer chat, but as long as you're two doctors and over, I'd say 1.5 million, is that right, in revenue?
Correct.
Then for sure give them a call. So let's move on though and talk about our kind of superstar owner number two. Can you give us their first name?
Sure. So that would be John in New Jersey, New
John and
Jersey guy.
okay. And how many DVMs did he have?
Just two, himself and one associate.
Okay. And again, the reason why I always start by asking how did they hear about Transitions Elite, a lot of what we're talking about here is because of Transitions Elite. It is because of the process. It is because of how you work with them. It's not accidental when these experiences happen. If you work with a regular sort of traditional broker, that's usually not quite the same experience. And we can't speak for all of them, but we have really tried to make this a very concierge kind of white glove service. And that's what allows us to be able to get such high prices and such good terms, and to give you such a good quality of life post sale. So on that note, how did they hear about Transitions?
John is the DVM, and his wife Edie is the practice manager, and they were on a webinar with you and I.
Okay, excellent. And they like the sound of you. Sounds good. Excellent. So what do you think their initial motivations were to sell? Again, were they in their 60s and ready to retire? Did they just have an aha moment, like we're going to miss this window of opportunity? Did they kind of just ask one another, what is our why? Why are we doing this? And for how much longer?
They are in their low 50s. They had two high school students, not students, a daughter and a son.
Yeah.
and that they were graduating high school, so they wanted to. They immediately bought themselves a house in Turks and Caicos, and they wanted to spend more time at that house. John would go to Turks and Caicos, which is not a short flight from New Jersey,
Yeah.
for 2 days, 2 nights, and that would be the extent of their time in Turks and Caicos. And they wanted to spend more time there. That was the sole reason for these conversations. They were now empty nesters, and they wanted to spend time on at the beach house that they purchased.
I love it. And so for these guys, and again, I don't know anything about these particular, cases that we're talking about, but were they aware of the market conditions being so good? Were they aware that this is a great time, or were they just like kind of fed up? They just
They
wanted to.
had absolutely no idea what the profitability of their practice was, or that it was anywhere near the amount of value that they had. No clue whatsoever. They were shocked by the numbers, and they immediately said, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's go for it."
Wow. So I mean, this is a bit of a deviation, but in this market where there's so much on the line, and I know I sound like a little crazy when I say it, but like you say, when we have to say to owners, I'm so sorry, the opportunity has closed. Like the private equity is reallocated, they're in a different industry. We can sell, but it's going to take a lot longer, and you're going to get a third, a quarter, a fifth of the price. Um, there's a lot, and also, like you say, it's not just another 18 months of doing this. You now are looking at 10, 20 years more of this grind. Like it's a big deal. So how is it possible, do you think, that some owners don't know about this unique moment in time? Like how are they just not paying attention to it because they're so far away from retirement that they're just not thinking, like selling's just not on their radar? How is it possible?
In their scenario, they just had a lot on their plate. John was a mega producer. Edie was a practice manager. They had two high school kids that played sports. Every
Yeah.
second that they weren't, managing the practice, they were with their kids or at games or trying to get to their beach house. And, they didn't have the resources or the time to, educate themselves into what was going on out there. It was kind of
Wow.
um, wasn't in the cards for them at that point. But they quickly learned the position that they were in. I could tell you that.
It's amazing to think though that they may have stayed busy, may not have opened an email, may not have, or answered a call, or may not have, had a conversation, may not have spoken to you, and then this wouldn't even be part of their reality. I mean, it does amaze me how we're talking about night and day in terms of quality of life, and how a single conversation can mean so much, and people can miss it. And so again, if you're on the call, if you're listening to us now, you have an opportunity to get that information, to know those options. It's really very fortuitous, I think, because again, these guys might not have gone there. They weren't aware that this is a great opportunity, and this is what our practice is likely worth. Someone had to inform them about that. So over to those guys. So did they have, like, once you started the conversation, did they have fears and reservations again about losing control or identity or telling their team or anything like that? Does anything stand out for you?
I have been in at least 500 veterinarian practices in my life. They likely have the most unique building and vet practice that I've ever been in.
Wow.
It's a staple in the community. It's been there forever. It is an actual haunted mansion. That is
Wow.
their vet practice is in
Wow.
a 1800s haunted mansion. It
Oh
is
my
a
God.
staple in the community. Everyone knows about it. John is a icon in that community, just because of his personality is infectious, mixed out with the fact that he practiced medicine in an animal mansion. It
Yeah.
goes for something that people don't soon forget. So I think for their case, it was
Wow.
how is the community going to respond to this?
Mm,
This hospital is so regarded as this privately held
yeah.
staple of this town. Now is it going to be this blue practice, that
Yeah.
everybody
With a
has
big
kind of
corporate
this,
brand on it, or
yeah,
yeah.
with the branding and now it's a different name and all this stuff. I think that was their biggest concern, for sure. Um,
And did it play out that way?
oh, no one would have any clue that they sold the practice. No idea whatsoever. And they did not sell the practice. They entered into a joint venture partnership for a variety of reasons. But at the end of the day, they received a multitude of offers. They received 5 offers, and they
Wow.
ranged quite a bit. But as you could imagine, the mansion's quite big,
Mm,
and they had all the room in the world to expand, and they had all the demand in the world to expand. When they learned about the recruiting arm of these entities and what was possible long term and the efficiencies that these entities bring and still have the quality of life piece, they decided to maintain equity in their own
wow.
practice,
Wow.
because they felt that the upside was so dramatic that they could hold on to a number of shares in their own practice, still get the lifestyle changes that they want, and still participate in this unbelievable upside for many years to come. John's in his low 50s. He's not going anywhere. He'll tell you he's going to do this for another 30 years. So he has that old school mentality of just I'm doing this forever, right? So
Absolutely.
in his mind, it gave him the confidence and the insurance policy of, okay, I'm going to take some chips off the table. I'm going to lock in today's rates on this, but I'm still going to, participate in the upside. So it was an unbelievably perfect fit for them. Very completely different from Dr. Trish's deal. Completely couldn't be more different in terms of the structure, the terms, etc. They each got to see what these different options were. Each selected completely different ones, right? I
Wow.
mean, they each had the opportunity to do either one, and two different doctors in two different areas selected two completely different transactions.
But again, it really makes a difference. Like if you're with a traditional broker, they're going to be like, here's an offer, take it. They're maybe double, representing the buyer and the seller, whatever they're doing, but they're more volume. Whereas in your case, you're like, let's really look at and weigh these options. Like what really suits you as individuals, your age, your goals, like you say, how much you want to travel, blah, blah, blah. But you know what's amazing? I've never heard that story before. And it's so cool because what it says is, if anyone's worried about selling out, and this is not corporate, but in people's mind they think it feels like selling out to the corporate machine. That's not what this is. These are people who are dyed in the wool to the bone, independent practitioners, practice owners. They were a pillar in their community, that was their big concern, that they didn't want to let anyone down in their community, etc. They didn't want anything to change, and they believed so much in the buyer and the buyer's ability to maintain what they've built and to enhance what they've built, that they kept equity in it. And for two reasons, that's amazing. One, financially, they invested in it. And two, they emotionally are now tied to that practice for going forward. And they felt that those people were genuine, were sincere, were non-corporate, all those different things. I'm guessing, right? Like, why else would you do that unless
100%. Yeah.
to
I'll
do
tell
that?
you that the downside of a joint venture partnership is some people feel like they haven't disconnected themselves enough from the practice. That's the
Right.
number one
Yeah.
concern that I see from people. That would have been Dr. Trish's reaction to that, right? Is this isn't for me. It's great. I understand it, but this isn't for me. On this side, John's saying, I'm an empty nester. I still get my 4 weeks of vacation a year. They're still doing the books and records. Edie's on the beach. She's having a good time. This is perfect. I'm going to ride this upside. And so, each kind of, I think it shows, right? When you compare apples to apples and you go through a bid process and you see these different offers compared to each other, they are so dramatically different. And they're not just different from, the headline price. They're different from, every single piece of them can be different.
Exactly.
And it,
But
and
that's
and it's going to be a fit for some, and it's going to be a total, absolutely no way in hell for somebody else, right?
absolutely. But that's why, again, I really stress for people that if you just go with a tree, because first of all, you can never do this on your own. You will not get multiple offers. You will, like Tom and I were talking before this session, that even with Tom by your side, there's all sorts of, I mean, it's a very high level transaction that's happening, and they've got teams of people that are it's a big deal. You can't do it on your own and get these prices and get these terms. But again, even with a traditional broker, if they are not engineering it, and if they're not advising you in the right way, and if they don't truly have your best interests at heart, and take the time, a lot of this is taking the time to talk through the options, to really explore it, etc., you're not going to have the same experience, right? If the broker is a retired vet or a retired accountant or whatever it is, they might do it well and to some degree, for sure, but they don't have this level of investment, of insight, and relationship building. They just don't have the time to be able to do that. And so, again, I think it's the fact that people are getting these amazing deals is partly that they exist, but a lot of it is because you are helping to engineer them. Would you agree that with that?
I take an investment banking approach to this, and I strive for perfection, to be honest with you. I
Yeah,
want people to look back at this and know that they got the best offer possible for them and have
yeah,
no regrets or second guesses whatsoever. And if you don't go through a process like that, I I assure you, you will second guess that.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen, we're almost out of time. We have time for one more quick one. And Tom, I could listen to these stories forever because again, it was so amazing is that these are once overwhelmed, overworked, quite unhappy owners, not necessarily the people that we're talking about here, but the people who are
Oh,
self.
John will tell you he was. The
Yeah,
Edie, I mean, if you talk to Edie right now, she will tell you that John's demeanor, his stress levels, the way he acts is so much calmer, so much more reserved. He's such a cool guy again, and I think he just having that financial burden away changed, it loosened him up, and he did, it 100, it affects people, it does, right? And
yeah,
the more times than not, it's a very positive reaction that I hear
yeah.
from folks.
Well, and when you speak to owners who've dipped their toe in and are saying, okay, I'll have a first initial conversation about it. It's scary, but I will. What's driving them is they want something more. They're not happy. They don't want to be stressed every day. They don't want to be lying in bed on a Sunday morning worried about things. They don't want any more of the burden of the HR and the staffing issues that they're just constantly having to navigate and deal with. They just can't, they're not content. What they signed up for was, delivering great veterinary medicine and owning a practice. What they got in reality was it just dominates your whole life. And again, do I could do this for another 20 or 30 years, but do I really want to? And do I deserve more and do my team deserve more? And it sounds so flaky and like inspirational, but it's really very, very true. You do deserve more. These are incredible people. And these stories are very, anyway, I should stop talking. So let's talk about the last scenario. Can you just tell us the first name of the owner, their location, and how many DVMs?
So Ray is in a very hot demographic area of Atlanta, Georgia, and he had one associate. And I bring up the hot demographic area because it's important to the story. When Ray purchased the practice years ago, this area was still rather suburban, if not rural, and the area has blown up since kind of people have moved out of Atlanta, and the surrounding areas have just off the charts in terms of developments, etc. So it's incredible. And luckily, Ray had this huge footprint in this building that could, he had one associate. You could fit five or six in this practice, and he honestly didn't want to do it himself. He knew the potential was there. He knew what needed to be done to enhance the brand, the legacy, the practice, etc. But he didn't want to recruit. He didn't want to go through all those steps of hiring. But he knew the potential was there, and he wanted a plan. He really wanted to know how the next 10 years was going to look for him. He wanted another 10 years at the practice, but he wanted, an out. He knew through DVM Elite, he was a longtime member of DVM Elite, had heard about us talking forever, knew the market was super hot, and approached us about it and said, I think I want to take advantage of this situation. I know I want to be there for 10 years, but I don't really want to do all these other things for 10 years. I just want to practice medicine for 10 years. And I'm afraid that, I'm going to have to do, if I don't do this now, I'm going to have to do all these other things for this whole 10-year period. And at the end of the day, maybe I'll be able to sell, maybe I won't be. So he just wanted that plan. And with Ray, it was a hybrid of the two models that we spoke about before. Ray invested in passive equity at the holding company level, right? So he doesn't own a percentage of his practice. He didn't sell 100%. He owns shares in a conglomerate, right? So in theory, he owns a tiny little percentage of all the practices that they own.
Right.
So more passive, more hands off, fit into what he was looking for. And he pulled the trigger on the offer again. I want to say, I didn't pull this up. I should have. I want to say he got 5 offers for his practice. Extremely desirable practice because of where it was, and he's an unbelievable doctor in person. But really, a huge part of it was because of where it was. But again, I point to it. The offers were so different, so different. The range of offers he received was so wide, and there was an outlier. And we looked at each other and we were kind of like, sign it before it blows up. This is not, is this real? Like, we were kind of giggling at each other of, we pulled it off. This is a once in a lifetime deal. So did not hesitate, and he closed that transaction in 60 days.
Oh my gosh. But again, this doesn't happen without someone like a team like Transitions Elite with someone like you who's driving it, who knows how to make that happen. But we again have known Ray for a long time, and yeah, I mean that's it's an amazing story for sure. So what were and he wanted like again in terms of the
He
Ray.
wanted stability,
Yeah,
Melanie. He wanted a plan. He wanted to know what his future was. He wanted to be able to plan for it financially. Just having that plan was important to him. Some folks, we see it often, but not always. I think he was just someone that was kind of sick of the volatility, sick of not
yeah,
knowing, what the future would hold. Um, COVID impact because he was in such an urban area. COVID had a huge impact on them.
yeah,
Didn't know if something like that would happen again. Didn't want something to be in charge of something like that again.
yeah,
He was in a very political hotbed during all that, and there was a lot of rules and regulations, and they were changing every day. He didn't want to deal with those type of things anymore.
yeah.
And that experience, I think, was one that changed his mentality quite a bit. Of I don't want to deal with this anymore. I just
Yeah.
want to go in, I want to practice medicine, and I want to keep,
Right.
I love the animals. I love the patients. I love the people. I don't love all these operational items.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never did. I did them because I had to, right? And then that was his mentality.
Yeah. No, for absolutely. And um, and again, people ask, why would someone in their late 50s with a very successful practice, who's comfortable, who's earning well, etc., why would they do this? And for him, he wanted a plan, and he just wanted a more um predictable life. He didn't want to deal with the all of the ups and downs that come with practice ownership. And that's what's so great about this model is you get to stay a vet, but you don't have to deal with all of that, like you say, the day-to-day operations. It's someone else, the taxes, the responsibility, the liability, that is all someone else's burden. So that's amazing. So he knew about
And
transition.
one other thing with Ray that I think is important. Ray's a realist. I don't think he's a pessimist by any means, but he's a realist, and he had a smart mentality of, what if
Yeah,
something happens to me? What if something happens? What if my associate leaves? What if this valuation all of a sudden that was here goes down here, and something happens to me, and my family's left with very little or no ability to sell this practice, or and why don't I take those steps while I have that ability to
yeah.
solidify their financial well-being for not just the next 10 years, but the next, generation after that, right? And he was
Absolutely.
able to do that.
Absolutely. No, fantastic. And just so everyone knows, we're at time, but we're going to go for about 6 or 7 minutes beyond this. So just hang in with us. But like I said, I'm going to show the screen where if you do want to start this conversation, if you do want to talk to Tom, just about what your options are, again, is your practice, are you sort of emotionally, is your practice ready to sell? What is the approximate value of your practice? Approximate. And then also, again, what are some things you can go away and do that will increase your attractiveness in the market and potentially your profitability? So kind of talking through just having that initial kind of that chemistry conversation. So I'm going to share that in a moment. So Ray knew about us. He's been a long-term member of DVM Elite, and everyone kind of goes from DVM Elite to Transitions Elite. But what would you say, if any, what were the fears that Ray had? And I just spoke to him the other day, so I know some of these. So what would you say though?
I think it was the concept of selling out definitely affected him. He was not someone motivated by money. He was motivated by the medicine. He's very in tune with the new, everything new that's in the industry. He loves it. He is a true medical doctor in every sense of the word. And I think that that concept of, I sold out, I took the money, how is my family going to react to this? How is my community going to react to this? How's my staff going to react to this? If corporate was on one side, Ray's on the other, right? And his risk and his fear was to be on that, to move from this side over to the corporate side.
Yeah. And we keep saying that, when you sell to the buyers that we're taking you to, it is not corporate. They don't change anything because they are buying what you built. They are financial buyers. So if they change anything, the name of your practice, your medical model, change your team, anything, they don't want to do that unless the domino effect starts and everything gets undone. So it's to the point where your clients would never know there's been a change of hands, but even your team potentially may not know because it's so everything is
They'll know, but they may not realize the changes after a few days. You know.
absolutely. For sure, for sure. So just to kind of close out Ray a little bit more. So he had those reservations when he went, and we know what his motivation was after he sold. Um, can you give it kind of any insight into, were there any regrets? Did he have any,
Oh, I think he's as happy as could be. I
yeah,
mean, you talk to him probably. It's funny because I don't like to bother these folks because I go from speaking to them 2 or 3 times a day to no communication whatsoever. So you're probably more in the mix on Ray than I am. It's been a few weeks since I spoke to him, but to
yeah.
my knowledge, he's as happy as could be.
Oh my gosh. And because people can't believe the money they got. And this is not Ray at all, but we have one case and it was a little while ago, but we got a number of offers. One was X amount, one was 10 million, one was, another offer. And then there was an offer of around 21, 22 million. These are huge discrepancies. Again, between 10 and 20 is a huge, huge discrepancy. So you can have these outliers that pop up, and then you've just got to be able to have the confidence and the timing needs to be right, and you need to swoop in and take that opportunity. So that's not Ray, but again, just talking about how he had that mindset. I am confident that I am not selling out. I'm doing the absolute opposite here. Like you say, there's corporate on one end of the continuum, Ray's on the other. He wants to stay there, but he also wants to take advantage of a moment in time. And when I spoke to him the other day, his motivation was, he had lost someone very close to him. He wanted to live his life. He didn't want to sacrifice anymore. He had bought a couple of horses. He wanted to spend time with them on the weekends. And he said, it's unbelievable. He goes in, he does, works as a veterinarian in exactly the way that he wants to do it, does that 5 days a week. And then every weekend he spends with his horses. And he said, like, there's no veterinarian out there that can say that they have the freedom to be able to do that. Everyone feels, rightly or not, that they've got to be there on site, and you can't take small trips and stuff like that. So I think he's shocked at at how well he did with his transaction, and he's thrilled. I think this is all about allowing people to live their best life. And that is, and we have not had a scenario where people haven't come away thinking, I am living my best life. We have Dr. Lonnie who says, I go into work every day. I come home and have supper with my lovely wife. And he points to her and he said, and I am set up financially for the, very, very well for the rest of my life. I love what I do, and I'm financially extremely well off. And there's not very many veterinarians that can say that. People love being a vet, but they don't necessarily love what they're doing. And so to be able to again engineer it so that you have a renewed, reignited passion for veterinary medicine, and you're a multimillionaire. I mean, like it's amazing. So on that note, I want to kind of wrap this up, but over to you for any closing thoughts, Tom. Thank you, first of all, for sharing these stories. They're intimate. They're, I really wanted to sort of paint this picture of what it is like, to go through you do this mental baggage when you start thinking about selling, but it is so unfounded and it doesn't play out in reality. We've never seen it happen with us anyway. So over to you. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just to echo what you just said, I don't just say this. There's not I can't name one horror story, Melanie. I can't name one regret off the top of my head. Maybe you can. I can't.
No.
And um, trust me, they would let me know. They would call me and let me know. And I don't get those type of calls. I don't. And I would be honest with you if I did and tell you what they were. I just don't. There is these
Yeah.
folks are so happy afterwards, that and it's right down the line, and it's funny because they're so different people, right? But they're all
Yeah.
happy in their own way with what they the avenue what they went down, and every deal is so different, and every one of these people, I mean, to compare somebody like even John and somebody like Ray, they couldn't be more polar opposites, and each one couldn't be more happy for totally different reasons, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
it's
absolutely.
cool to see.
No, it's really cool to see. And I mean, a lot of these people, we keep saying this, but were not particularly happy doing what they were doing. They didn't like where the course of their practice was going. In many cases, like I can think of tons of cases where it's a younger owner and they say, I had my heels dug in. I was not going to sell. I was not going to be in a position where anyone was going to tell me what to do. I've built this practice over, a decade or 5 decades, whatever it is. That it was not for me. And then they had a conversation that really opened their eyes, and to see them down the road, these are people, again, I keep going back to this, their spouses always say, the team says you're more relaxed, you're more fun to work with, the real you is shining through. And that's because they have, like you say, no more financial worries, but also they're out there, they're jogging, they're going on trips with they're hanging out with their 2-year-old. They don't have that constant guilt of, I've got 4 kids at home and it's 9 o'clock at night and I'm not going to see them tonight or in the morning. Like it's just they're very different people as well, not just in personality, but from start to end, it is just, it's about giving them back a life, and allowing them to live their best life. So I thank you for that very, very much, Tom. I thank you for your time here again. Jump on a call. You have nothing to lose by speaking to Tom. If you just go to transitionselite.com/practice value, or scan this QR code, you can book a call with him. If you don't find a time or date that works, let us know. If you have any questions, you can also email us. But thank you everyone for joining us. Again, big, big thank you for you to join us here today, Tom, and we'll see everyone next time.
Thanks, Melanie.